Before I came to Vietnam, I spent most of my life in the spotlight, but really, I was the one behind it. I wasn't usually the person on stage. I was the one making sure everyone else got there. The one building the show, running the show, and making the whole experience happen from behind the scenes. In the music business, I promoted over 1,500 concerts over a 23-year span in Canada and Hawaii. Working with artists like Alice Cooper, The Beach Boys, B.B. King, Mick Fleetwood, Ziggy Marley, Philip Glass, Lyle Lovett, James Blunt, Weird Al Yankovic, Joe Rogan, Marlon Wayans, Steve Vai, Steve Martin, Arlo Guthrie, Don McLean, David Crosby, Joe Walsh from the Eagles, Bad Company, Burton Cummings, Randy Bachman, Johnny Winter, The Misfits, Dead Kennedys, Gypsy Kings, Tom Cochran, Melvin Seals and the Jerry Garcia Band, as well as the Vienna Boys Choir and the Harlem Gospel Choir. I promoted a lot of shows, and many more of those. But more importantly than the names, I was the guy behind the entire experience. I was the man for the night, the promoter, the guy who brought this to the stage. I owned my own production company and handled everything from contracting the shows, ticketing, marketing, production, hospitality, and ground transportation. If a show happened, I was the one involved in every layer of making it happen. And for a long time, that was my life. Fast-paced, high visibility, always connected to something happening on the big stage. I was always constantly in the radio, on television, and in most of the places that I lived, a lot of people knew who I was because of the work that I did. I was the guy who would introduce that act onto the stage. So sometimes I was on the spotlight, but most of the time I wasn't. But when I moved to Vietnam, all of that disappeared. And in a strange way, that became one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because I went from being known in my world to being completely unknown here. Well, not completely unknown. A few people do know me, but most don't. And that shift was actually a relief. Here I can just exist as a normal person. I even started going by Mateo. Mateo is my new name here, and instead of Matthew. Partly as a fresh new start, and partly because it feels more natural in its new chapter. At first, I didn't expect that to feel freeing, but it did. It felt like I stepped out of a constant role into a place with no expectations, no history, and no identity attached to me. And as I realized something, there's real value in not being known. You don't have to perform, you don't have to be on, you just get to be yourself. Before Vietnam, I had already lived several versions of my life. After the music industry, I started Hawaii's only glass recycling factory, turning used bottles into products for hotels and restaurants. It was creative, intense, and for a while, it worked. The long hours and constant pressure eventually pushed me in a different direction. So I made another shift. I sold everything and returned to working in music remotely as an independent contractor. And that gave me something I hadn't had in years: freedom. That freedom led me to Southeast Asia. I came on a 3-week trip with my friend Paul, who was 78 years old. Yes, I took a 78-year-old through Southeast Asia, and somehow he kept up better than most people half his age. It was awesome. We traveled through Bali, Thailand, and Vietnam with no expectations. We appreciated every place we visited. But Vietnam felt different. The warmth of the people, how authentic they are, something just felt right. And it stayed with me, and it never left me alone since. After venturing around northern Vietnam, we eventually arrived at Da Nang. On our first night, we walked along the beach after dinner. The ocean was warm, families were gathered, kids were playing, people were swimming under the lights, palm trees lined the coast, and I remember thinking, this feels like Hawaii, but calmer and more grounded. I turned to my friend and I said, I could live here someday. I didn't realize how serious that thought would become. After returning to Hawaii, which is the correct way to pronounce Hawaii, I sold everything I owned. It was tough leaving one of the most beautiful places on the planet, but I did it, and I packed my entire life into 2 suitcases. And 6 months later, I moved to Da Nang. That was the beginning of a completely different life. People ask me, why Vietnam? I traveled through other parts of Southeast Asia, and I appreciated all of them. Thailand, Cambodia, and others all have their beauty. But Vietnam connected with me differently. The kindness, the warmth, the authentic behavior of the people that live here. It resonated in a way I didn't expect, and that's why I stayed. When I arrived, I expected to feel alone, but I didn't. I never felt lonely here. I built a new community quickly through pickleball, hiking, disc golf, and ultimate frisbee. I learned something simple. If you show up long enough, you eventually belong somewhere. The language barrier? Don't worry about it. It turned out to be far less of an issue than I expected. Between gestures, expressions, and Google Translate, communication just works. Most of the time, it's enough to simply connect with people as human beings. Before we go deeper into this journey, I want to say this. Follow along with me, because this channel isn't about highlights of Vietnam. We're going way deeper than that. Beaches, temples like Marble Mountains, rivers, markets, food, and the daily life in Da Nang. But more importantly, what it actually feels like to live here. Not as a tourist, but as someone building a life here. I spent most of my time with Vietnamese people in local neighborhoods, cafes, gyms, and everyday life. Not in tourist areas, not in An Thong, which I call Disneyland, to be honest. Because when you go to Disneyland, no one's from that area. It's all tourists. So I stay out of Disneyland. Because for me, the real Vietnam isn't in the highlights. It's in the everyday rhythm of life. And I plan on living here for a very long time. One of the things that surprised me most about this area is how much nature and culture exists side by side. There's Marble Mountain, caves, temples, and views across the coastline. And just outside of the city, in the Sunshine Peninsula, home to some of the rarest primates in the world, the red-shanked Duke langurs. I think I pronounced that right. Around the city, beaches stretch endlessly, and rivers flow from the mountains into the sea. Nature and daily life exist together here. Da Nang feels complete. Beaches, mountains, rivers, temples, food from all over the world. Sports, wellness, and community, all in one place. They call it the most livable city in the world. Pickleball, yoga, hiking, massage, saunas, ice bath, beach workouts. It's all part of the daily life. The pace is different, slower in some ways, more alive in others. And when you walk through the city, people smile. Most of the time, they smile back. Probably 99% of the time. People are the most friendliest here that I've ever seen in my life. And over time, I realized something. I didn't just come to Vietnam, I chose it. And Vietnam became my home. And in a way, I didn't really move here. It feels like I was drawn here. Like I became a magnet for this place, its people, and its culture. In a way I never expected, but now I deeply appreciate. So if you're watching this, welcome to my journey. Welcome to the streets, the neighborhood cafes, the beaches, the temples, the food, and the everyday life of this country. And welcome to my channel. Welcome to Accidentally Vietnamese.